and more. Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got a lot to cover today. Some major updates that could impact your finances, social security benefits, and even potential stimulus payments. First, we're diving into the Doge dividend stimulus checks, a controversial proposal that could send $5,000 payments to American taxpayers, but millions of people will not qualify. And I'll explain exactly who's eligible and why. Then we have huge changes coming to Social Security identity verification starting in April. Some people will no longer be able to verify their identity over the phone, a move aimed at preventing fraud, but one that could make things more complicated for millions of Americans. I'll break it down how this could affect you. And if you haven't claimed your $1,400 stimulus check from 2021, time is running out. The IRS says 1.1 million Americans still have refunds waiting for them. But if you don't file your taxes by April 15, that money goes back to the government and you'll never get it. But be careful. If you try to claim the check a second time, you could get it hit with fines and penalties, and I'll tell you what you need to do to claim your money right away. So whether you're wondering about stimulus checks, social security changes, or missing tax refunds, I've got you covered. Stick around till the end so you don't miss any important details. Let's get into it. In March 2025, new laws and policies went into effect that are shaking up Social Security. On one hand, we've got major benefit increases thanks to the Social Security Fairness Act. On the other hand, a controversial policy is making a comeback, one that allows the government to withhold 100% of your benefits if they claim you were overpaid. So let's break it all down. Who wins? Who loses? And what you need to protect your money. Big win for retirees, Social Security Fairness Act. First, let's talk about the good news. After years of fighting for change, public sector retirees like teachers, police officers, and firefighters are finally getting what they are owed. The Social Security Fairness Act officially repealed two old rules, the Windfall Elimination Provision WEP and the Government Pension Offset GPO, that unfairly reduced benefits for over 3.2 million retirees. If you had government pension and were hit with these penalties, you've probably been losing hundreds of dollars every month, but not anymore. Even better, the repeal is retroactive to January 2024. That means if you were affected by WEP or GPO, Social Security now owes you back pay for benefits you should have been receiving since last year. The government moved fast on this one. By early March, Social Security Administration SSA had already paid out over $7.5 billion in retroactive benefits to more than 1 million retirees, and on average, each person received about $6,710 in back pay. That's a pretty nice lump sum hitting bank accounts right now. But the best part, this isn't just a one-time payment. Monthly Social Security checks will increase permanently for those retirees starting in April, depending on how much your benefits were previously reduced. You could see hundreds, maybe even over $1,000 added to your bank account every month. So if you were affected by WEP or GPO, this is great news for your financial security, but while some people are celebrating, others are about to face a much tougher situation. The bad news, Social Security can now take 100% of your benefits. Now let's talk about a big problem coming at the end of March, Social Security overpayment collection. For years, if Social Security overpaid someone, often due to government mistake, they could only take back 10% of your monthly check to recover the money. This was to prevent retirees from suddenly losing all their income. Well, that projection is gone. Starting March 27, 2025, the SSA will go back to its old policy of withholding 100% of your benefits if they say you were overpaid. That means if the government decides you owe them money, even if it was their fault, you could lose your entire Social Security check until they recover the debt. Now let's real. Social Security overpayments happen all the time. Maybe it's because of reporting error, and miscalculation or just been record keeping on their end. The worst part, many people don't even realize they were overpaid until they get a letter in the mail demanding repayment. Imagine living on Social Security as your only source of income, then suddenly having your entire check taken away. That's exactly what's about to happen to thousands of seniors if they get hit with an overpayment notice. There's already been outrage over this. Lawmakers and elder advocates are pushing back, saying this could force people into homelessness, food insecurity, or even medical emergencies. One senator shared the story of a 78-year-old woman who was told she owed Social Security $58,000 and had her checks reduced so much she couldn't afford rent. She ended up living in her car. If you receive an overpayment notice, don't ignore it. You can appeal, request a waiver, or set up a payment plan to avoid losing all your benefits at once. But the key is to act quickly before they start taking money out of your checks. And there's not only policy shift coming. Major changes, identity verification, and possible benefit cuts. There are also some new rules coming into play that could make it harder to access your benefits. Number one, a stronger identity verification. Starting March 31st, 2025, the SSA is making it tougher to apply for benefits over the phone. Now, if you wanted to apply remotely, you'll need to go through online identity proofing, which means if you don't have internet access or struggle with technology, you might be forced to visit a Social Security office in person. This could cause serious delays, especially for older retirees or people with disabilities who can't easily travel. Number second, potential benefit cuts for some people. There's also talk of cutting benefits for people without a Social Security number. This would mainly affect immigrants and certain other groups who currently receive disability or low-income benefits. Nothing is finalized yet, but if this change goes through, thousands of people could lose their Social Security payments entirely. Now, what this all means for you. So here's the bottom line. If you were affected by WEP or GPO, you're about to see a big increase in Social Security benefits plus a one-time lump sum of back pay. If you get an overpayment notice, you could lose your entire check, so you can need to act fast to request a waiver or set up a payment plan. If you rely on phone services to manage your benefits, be prepared for new restrictions. You may have to visit an office in person. If you're in a group at risk of losing benefits, keep an eye on upcoming policy announcements because changes are happening fast. This is one of the biggest shakeups in Social Security in years, and it is affecting millions of people. Some of these changes are long overdue and finally giving retirees the benefits they deserve, but others could make life much harder for vulnerable seniors. Alright, so we've already talked about the big Social Security changes coming this year. Some good news, some not so much. Now, let's dive into another major development that's making headlines. A federal judge just blocked the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE from accessing personal Social Security data. And yes, that's the same DOGE team led by Elon Musk, working under the Trump administration to curb government inefficiencies. So what exactly happened? Well, this all started when DOGE tried to gain access to Social Security records, claiming they needed to track down fraud and waste in the system, but critics and now the court see it differently. A judge in Maryland just ruled that DOGE cannot access any personally identifiable information from the Social Security SSA. And not only that, but any non-anonymized data they already collected has to be deleted. There's a huge legal setback from the Trump administration efforts to overhaul Social Security. The judge basically said DOGE was on a fishing expedition looking for fraud without any real proof that it is as widespread as they claim. And honestly, that's been one of the biggest debates. Does Social Security really have the kind of fraud problem they're making it out to be? Or is it just an excuse to push for more cuts? No, let's talk about what kind of information we're dealing with here. We're just talking about names and addresses. Social Security records certainly contain some of the most sensitive personal data you can imagine, things like medical and mental health records, tax info, bank accounts, earnings history, even immigration and neutralization documents. So if Doge had been granted full access, that would have been a major privacy concern for millions of Americans. Of course, this ties into a bigger conversation about Social Security and how the government is handling it under Trump. Before taking office, he promised he wouldn't touch Social Security or Medicare, but now, well, let's just say the messaging has changed. He's been hinting at cuts, arguing the system is full of inefficiencies and fraud. In fact, just earlier this year, he claimed millions of centenarians, people over 100 years old, are still getting Social Security checks. But reports from SSA inspectors show that's not really the case. They've acknowledged outdated records, but they've also said the problem isn't nearly as widespread as Trump and Musk are making it out to be. And speaking of Musk, he's been especially vocal about Social Security, calling it the biggest Ponzi scheme of all the time, and even suggesting that entitlements are being used to attract and retain illegal immigrants. There's a bold claim, and not one backed by much evidence, but it's clear Musk and Doge have been in mission to shake things up across the federal government. This isn't the first time Doge has faced legal pushback either. Just last week, another judge ordered the Trump administration to restore the U.S. Agency for International Development after Doge tried to dismantle it. The court even said Musk and his team likely violated the Constitution in multiple ways while doing so. So where does all this leave us? Well, for now, Doge is blocked from digging through Social Security data. But this fight isn't over. The administration is expected to appeal, and we'll have to see if they try another approach. But one thing's clear, Social Security is at the center of the political battle right now, and the stakes are incredibly high for retirees, disabled Americans, and anyone who depends on these benefits. And this isn't the only Social Security-related controversy happening right now. There's more to talk about, especially when it comes to potential future changes and what they could mean for you. So stick around because we're just getting started. And there's not only financial boosts some Americans might still be eligible for. While Social Security changes have been making headlines, there's another source of financial relief that many people might have overlooked. The remaining $1,400 in stimulus checks, even though it's been a few years since the last major round of stimulus payments, the IRS has identified thousands of Americans who never claimed their recovery rebate credit from 2021. That means some people are still owed money, potentially up to $1,400, and they have until April 2025 to claim it. That's especially important right now, considering the financial pressure many people are under. With rising costs and uncertainty around Social Security, getting an unexpected boost of cash could be a game changer. But here's the catch. The IRS won't necessarily come knocking on your door to hand over the money. If you haven't filed your 2021 tax return, or if you didn't claim the recovery rebate credit at the time, you have to take action to get your payment, and time is running out. For those who already filed their 2021 tax return but didn't claim the credit, the good news is the IRS has been automatically sending out payments since December. If you fall into this category, you might have already received your check or deposit. But for those who never filed at all, the deadline to do so and claim the money is April 15, 2025. That might seem like plenty of time, but given how easy it is to forget about things like this, it's better to take care of it sooner rather than later. Now let's talk about who actually qualifies. Okay, now this is a big question for you guys. If you didn't claim the recovery rebate credit on your 2021 return, okay, and you were eligible for a stimulus payment back then, so you're likely entitled to this money. And if you don't file your return at all, you could still be eligible, but only if you file before the deadline. This means that even people who don't typically file taxes, like low-income individuals or retirees who don't owe income tax, might have money waiting for them. The key is checking your 2021 return or filing one if you haven't already. The process itself isn't overly complicated. If you already filed in 2021 and didn't claim the credit, the IRS is handing it for you. But if you still need to file, you can do so using a tax professional or one of these free tools available on the IRS website. Just make sure to include the recovery rebate credit when you do. Once everything is processed, you'll get your payment either through direct deposit or a paper check, depending on what the IRS has on file for you. This money could make a real difference, especially considering the broader financial landscape between Social Security overpayment clawbacks, potential benefit cuts, and increased scrutiny on government spending, and many Americans are feeling squeezed. That's why checking if you're eligible for the stimulus payments is so important. It's one of the few remaining financial relief opportunities still available, and missing out on it would be likely leaving free money on the table. But this also raises a bigger question: why are so many people still owed stimulus money in the first place? It comes down to a combination of factors. Some people didn't realize they had to claim the recovery rebate credit to get money. Others may have mistakenly thought they weren't eligible. And then there are those who simply didn't file a tax return at all, either because you weren't required to or because they weren't aware they needed to. Whatever the reason, the IRS has been working to identify these individuals and get them their payments. At the same time, the government's broader approach to financial assistance has been shifting. The stimulus payments were designed to provide direct relief during the pandemic. But in the years since, the focus has shifted to cutting costs, reducing fraud, and reining in spending. That's why we're seeing moves like the reinstatement of 100% of Social Security overpayment collections and increased scrutiny on benefits. And in that context, it's surprising that this stimulus money is still available at all. For many people, this $1,400 could be a crucial financial lifeline. With inflation still affecting everyday expenses, healthcare costs rising, and uncertainty surrounding retirement benefits, every dollar counts. That's why it's worth taking a few minutes to check your 2021 return or file one if you haven't already. The IRS won't be sending out reminders forever. Once the April 2025 deadline passes, this money will no longer be available. So if you or someone you know might be eligible, now is the time to take action, whether it's checking past tax return, reaching out to tax professionals, or simply making sure you file before the deadline. A little effort now could mean a much needed financial boost down the road. And in times like these, every bit of extra money helps. Social Security remains one of the most critical sources of retirement income for millions of Americans. Yet many people don't realize just how much their money payments can be based on key decisions they make throughout their working years. The amount a retiree receives isn't just randomly assigned, it's carefully calculated based on lifetime earnings and the age at which they choose to start collecting benefits. And those two factors alone can make the difference between a modest Social Security check and a substantial monthly payment that provides greater financial security in retirement. The Social Security Administration assesses and determines benefits by averaging a person's highest 35 years of earnings. For 2025, the maximum taxable earnings is set at $176,100, meaning anyone who earns that amount or more consistently throughout their career can qualify for the highest possible benefit. However, there's a major catch. Any earnings beyond that threshold aren't factored into Social Security calculation. That means high-income earners who consistently meet or exceed the limit can secure the largest monthly check, but making significantly more than the taxable maximum won't increase the benefit amount. Just as earning history plays a key role, so does the age at which someone decides to start claiming benefits. The earliest anyone can apply for Social Security is age 62, but doing so comes with a significant drawback: a permanently reduced monthly check. In contrast, waiting until full retirement age, typically between 66 and 67, depending on birth years, allows retirees to collect the full benefits, while delaying even further to age 70 can result in the highest possible monthly payout. In 2025, the difference is staggering. At age 62, the maximum monthly Social Security check is $2,831. At full retirement age 66 to 67, it jumps to $4,018. At age 70, the maximum benefit reaches $5,108. There's a $2,277 difference per month between taking benefits at 62 and waiting until 70, amounting to an additional $27,000 per year. That's why financial experts often recommend delaying Social Security as long as possible, as it can provide a major financial boost in later years. Even if someone can wait until 70, every additional month they hold off increases their monthly benefits. While these benefits are set once someone begins collecting, retirees can see annual adjustment due to the cost of living increases. The SSA applies a yearly cost of living adjustment COLA based on inflation data, which helps retirees maintain their purchasing power as prices rise. For 2025, the COLA increase is 2.5%. though it's lower than the past couple of years, especially the massive 8.7% increase in 2023. It still represents an important boost to monthly checks. Despite these benefits, Social Security alone often isn't enough to cover all retirement expenses. That's why it's crucial for workers to take advantage of additional opportunities to secure financial stability. One such opportunity that many Americans have overlooked is the $1,400 stimulus check that's still available to certain taxpayers. The IRS recently identified millions of people who never claimed the recovery rebate credit on their 2021 tax return, meaning they never received the stimulus payment they were entitled to. To address this, the agency announced in December that it would begin distributing $2.4 billion in back payments. Those who filed the 2021 taxes but missed the credit will receive the payments automatically. However, those who haven't filed for the year still have time. The deadline to claim the stimulus is April 15, 2025. For those who qualify, the process is straightforward. Individuals should review their 2021 tax return and check whether they claim the recovery rebate credit. If the field was left blank or reckoned as $0, they may be eligible for a payment. The IRS has also set up free filing tools for those who need to submit their 2021 taxes before the deadline. With the economy still presenting challenges, having access to these extra funds could make a meaningful difference. Rising cost of living, higher interest rates, and persistent inflation have all put financial pressure on households, making it more important than ever to claim every benefit available, whether it's maximizing Social Security checks, filing for missing stimulus payments, or making informed retirement decisions. Taking proactive steps can help secure a more stable financial future. At the same time, Social Security itself remains a topic of intense debate. Policy changes, funding concerns, and political discussions about the future of the program have many retirees and future beneficiaries worried. Some lawmakers have proposed raising the full retirement age, adjusting benefit formulas, or increasing payroll taxes to ensure long-term funding for the program. Others argue that cost-cutting measures could lead to reduction in benefits. As the discussions continue, it's essential for Americans to stay informed and aware of potential changes that could impact the retirement plans. The government has also introduced a stricter identity verification procedure, which may affect how easily some individuals can access their benefits. The Social Security Administration has implemented additional security measures to prevent fraud, but this could also create hurdles for those without reliable internet access or those unfamiliar with online systems. As a result, some retirees may need assistance navigating the new process to ensure they receive the benefits they've worked for. With all these factors at play, staying informed and taking action is more important than ever, whether it's planning for Social Security, taking advantage of stimulus payments, or preparing for potential policy shifts. The choices people make today can have a lasting impact on their financial well-being in retirement. Understanding the system, knowing when to claim benefits, and making a strategic financial decision can help ensure a more comfortable and secure future. And that's the real concern. Where does this all lead? The cuts are already affecting Social Security, defense, education, veterans affairs, but with Musk and Doge pushing towards their $1 trillion cost-cutting goal, We're only seeing the beginning of the transformation agencies once considered foundational to government operations are being stripped down or outright dismantled, and the consequences are beginning to take shape in the lives of everyday American. Take the essence of recent changes to identity verification. The justification, of course, is a fraud prevention and necessary goal, no doubt, but the way it's being implemented is leaving many vulnerable Americans into limbo. Eliminating phone verification forces millions of seniors and disabled individuals to rely on online services or visit an in-person office, but with SSA field offices closing nationwide due to DOGE-driven budget cuts, getting that in-person verification isn't so simple. Imagine an 85 years old retiree living in a rural town without internet access or transportation to the nearest SSA office, now suddenly unable to update the direct deposit information. That's the reality for countless people caught in the middle of these so-called efficiency improvements. And then there's the job cuts. The Pentagon's move to slash up to 60,000 civilian positions being framed as necessary restructuring, but inside sources warn that losing such a massive portion of the workforce in such a short time could create logistical nightmares. These aren't just paper pushers. Many of these roles are tied to national security, intelligence support, and operational logistics. Cutting them without clear plans to redistribute workloads could create vulnerabilities not just in the U.S. defense infrastructure, but in the global military operations. Federal agencies across the board are seeing similar disruptions. The EPA's decision to eliminate its scientific research office is expected to result in the loss of over 1,000 scientists and researchers. These professionals have been working on everything from climate studies to pollution control, and now their expertise is being sidelined. The IRS, already struggling with understaffing issues, is shedding another 18,000 employees, which could lead to processing delays, tax refund backlogs, and even weaker fraud detection. Meanwhile, the Postal Service is preparing to cut 10,000 jobs, despite its critical role in delivering medication, Social Security checks, and essential mail to millions of Americans. What's happening isn't just about balancing budgets, it's about reshaping the role of the federal government itself. DOGE was introduced as a task force to streamline operation and eliminate inefficiencies, but in practice it's functioning as a wrecking ball, indiscriminately tearing through agencies with a little regard for people affected, and yet the savings Musk and his team claim to be achieving aren't exactly adding up. DOGE has reported $150 billion in reduced spending, but independent analysis have only been able to verify about $8.6 billion in actual tangible cuts. The staggering discrepancy and it raises serious question about transparency. Where is the rest of the money being saved, or more importantly, is it being saved at all? Critics argue that this entire restructuring effort is less about reducing waste and more about pushing an ideological agenda, one that seeks to minimize the role of government at any cost by slashing agency funding, laying off tens of thousands of workers, and creating to essential services. DOGE is effectively forcing the federal government to shrink whether or not the consequences are fully understood. And perhaps the most concerning part, this all happening under an agency that technically doesn't even exist in a traditional sense. DOGE wasn't created by Congress, nor does it operate with the usual oversight mechanism of the federal agency. Instead, it was established by Trump executive order and functions as an independent force within the administration. That means it's free to push its agenda with far fewer checks and balances than a typical government department. So what happens next? If DOGE is still in its early phases and has already led to mass layoffs, benefit restrictions, and federal agency restructuring, what will the landscape look like 6 months from now? A year with Musk setting his sights on $1 trillion reduction in spending, it's clear that the cuts are far from over. For everyday American, the real question isn't just about whether government spending needs to be reduced, it's about how it's being reduced and who's paying the prices. Because from Social Security to defend the environmental research, the people bearing the burden of these cuts aren't billionaires or corporate executives. The retirees, veterans, scientific public servants, they're the very individuals the government is supposed to serve. As the debate over the Doge dividend check continues, many Americans are left wondering what this proposal truly means for them. While the idea of receiving $5,000 in direct payments sounds appealing, the reality behind the funding remains complex. The Department of Government Efficiency by Elon Musk has been aggressively cutting federal spending, but actual savings from these efforts remain in question. Critics argue that while Doge claims to have saved $150 billion so far, nearly 40% of the contracts terminated may not actually result in any tangible saving for the government. This raises concern about whether the projected $2 trillion in savings and by extension the $5,000 payouts are realistic. The Congressional Budget Office latest report paints a troubling picture, showing a 5% increase in the federal deficit and a 7% rise in government spending compared to last year. If Doge's cutting measures were truly as effective as Musk and his team claim, some argue these numbers should be moving in the opposite direction. Despite these concerns, supporters of the program remain optimistic. Fishback, and a key architect of Doge dividend proposal, has emphasized that initiative is designed to encourage taxpayers to trust the process and even participate in identifying government waste. His argument is simple: if Americans believe they have a direct stake in the savings, they will be more willing to support government efficiency efforts, but the exclusion of the millions of taxpaying immigrants from these payments has sparked controversy. Many of these individuals, despite their undocumented status, contribute billions in taxes annually. Funds that go towards programs like Social Security, Medicare, and public infrastructure. In 2022 alone, they paid nearly $97 billion in taxes, with $59.4 billion going to federal government. For some, this raises the question, should they really be left out of the program that is funded in part by their own contributions? Fishback has been clear that undocumented immigrants will not be eligible for Doge dividend, stating that only legal taxpayers should benefit from the savings. His reasoning is rooted in the idea that those who did not come into the country legally should not have access to the same benefits as citizens and legal residents. However, critics argue that his stance ignores the economic reality of undocumented workers who contribute to the public revenue but often receive little in return. The political battle over the Doge dividend is also intensifying. While Trump and Musk are pushing hard to make this a signature policy achievement, they face resistance from both fiscal conservative and progressive lawmakers. Some Republicans are worried about the massive government spending involved, and even if it comes from so-called savings, while Democrats argue that the funds could be better used for Social Security program rather than direct payments to taxpayers. Beyond the legislative hurdles, the logistical challenges as well. If the Doge dividend were to move forward, it would receive a secure, efficient method of distributing payments to tens of millions of Americans. This raises a concern about potential fraud, as well as the administrative burden on agencies already stretched thin by budget cuts. The IRS, for example, is already planning to cut nearly 20% of its workforce under Doge restructuring plans, which could make it even harder to process and distribute these checks in a timely manner. For many Americans, the question remains, is this real, or is it just another political promise that will never come to fruition? While Fishback insists the legislation is coming very soon, the reality is that no bill has been officially introduced yet. Even if ones were drafted today, it would still need to pass through Congress, which is deeply divided on the issue, with the earliest possible powers not expected until 2026. There's still a long road ahead before anyone sees a check in their mailbox. But even as uncertainty looms, the promise of Doge dividend has already had a political impact. It has energized Trump's base, giving his supporters a tangible reason to rally behind his administration cost-cutting measures. At the same time, it has fueled opposition from those who believe the savings could be better allocated. Whether the plan ultimately succeeds or fails, one thing is clear. The debate over government spending, taxation, and financial relief for Americans is far from over. Meanwhile, as the Doge team continues to push its agenda, other areas of the government are feeling the effects of Musk's cost-cutting. The Social Security Administration's new identity verification rules are just one example of the changes being implemented under Doge's watch. With phone verification being phased out, beneficiaries now face additional hurdles to accessing their own benefits. This has raised concern, particularly among older Americans and those with mobility issues or who may have struggled to visit the Social Security office in person. Additionally, job cuts at the federal agency continue to mount. The Pentagon's recent announcement that it will slash up to 60,000 civilian positions is just the latest in a series of workforce reduction across the government. The Environmental Protection Agency is eliminating its scientific research office. The IRS is cutting nearly 18,000 employees, and the Department of Veterans Affairs is planning to eliminate 18,000 jobs. Critics warn that these cuts could lead to disruptions in essential services, from tax processing to veteran health care. Despite the controversy, Musk and his team remain steadfast in their mission. The Doge tracker, created by data analyst Brian Banks, estimates that verified savings from the initiative currently stand out at $8.6 billion, far below the $150 billion claimed by Doge, but still a significant amount. Whether these savings will ultimately translate into $5,000 checks remains to be seen, but for now, the debate rages on. As Congress prepares to take up the issue, all eyes will be on whether lawmakers can turn his ambitious idea into reality. Until then, Americans waiting for Doge dividend may have to temper their expectation. The Social Security Administration is making significant changes that will affect millions of beneficiaries, and the new identity verification rules are just one part of the broader shift in how the system operates. With around 70 million Americans relying on Social Security benefits every month, even small changes can have a big impact. But this new verification process isn't just about updating outdated methods, it's a direct response to increasing risk of fraud. Between 2013 and 2018, over 33.5 million in benefits were stolen through fraudulent direct deposit manipulations, leaving thousands of Americans without the funds they depend on. That's why the SSA is now requiring a stronger identity verification before allowing changes to direct deposit information. The goal is to prevent scammers from redirecting payments, but this new policy also means that many beneficiaries will have to make an in-person visit to the local SSA office to verify their identity. While this change is intended to increase monthly security, it also raises concern about accessibility, particularly for seniors, people with disabilities, and those who live far from an SSA office. Critics argue that requiring in-person verification could create new challenges for those who have difficulty traveling or using online services. SSA Acting Commissioner has emphasized that these changes are necessary to protect American Social Security records. However, organizations like the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare are warning that the new requirements could make it harder for some people to access their benefits. As Max Richman, the organization president, put it, intentionally constructing obstacles for people who earn these benefits betrays an indifference to the elderly, people with disabilities, their families, survivors who rely on Social Security. At the same time, the SSA is also working to speed up direct deposit check requests. Under the new system, both online and in-person requests will be processed in just one business day, compared to the current 30-day processing time. So while the additional verification steps might create inconvenience, the faster turnaround time could be a welcome improvement for many beneficiaries. Now, if you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, you might be wondering how these changes will affect you. The good news is that if you don't need to update your direct deposit information, you won't have to worry about the new verification process. But if you do need to make a change, you'll need to be prepared to verify your identity online or visit an SSA office in person. And for those still waiting on the payments, it's important to keep track when your benefits will arrive. Social Security follows a set payment schedule each month, with payment distributed based on birth dates. Here's how April payment schedule breaks down. April 1st, Supplemental Security Income SSI beneficiaries will receive their payments. April 3rd, payments will be sent to those who have been collecting retirement benefits since before May 1997, as well as retirees who also receive SSDI benefits or SSI. April 9th, if your birthday falls between the 1st and 10th of the month, your benefits will be deposited on this day. April 16th, if your birthday falls between 11th to 20th, your payment will be sent on this date. April 23rd, if your birthday falls between the 21st and 31st, expect your benefits to arrive on this day. As always, if you receive your payments via direct deposit, you'll likely see the funds in your account on the morning of the scheduled payment date. If you receive a paper check, it may take a few additional days for your benefits to arrive by mail. While Social Security changes like these can sometimes create confusion, the most important thing to remember is that these updates are designed to enhance security and improve efficiency. If you're concerned about how these changes might affect you, the best thing you can do is to stay informed and be proactive. If you haven't already, setting up a Social Security account online can help you manage your benefits, track payments, and make necessary updates more easily. And if you ever have any doubts about your benefits or need assistance, visiting your local SSA office or calling their helpline can provide clarity on what steps to take next. As these changes roll out, Social Security will continue to be a crucial lifeline for millions of Americans. And while there are concerns about accessibility, the push for stronger security measures is a reminder of just how vital these benefits are. So whether you're currently receiving Social Security or planning for the future, keeping up with these updates is the best way to ensure you're prepared. Now, while we've covered the risk of mistakenly claiming the $1,400 stimulus checks twice, there's another big issue taxpayers need to be aware of: how unclaimed funds, refunds could disappear after April 15. Millions of Americans might not realize that the IRS still has over $1 billion in unclaimed tax returns from 2021. But here is the catch: if you don't claim your money by April 15, it's gone for good. The money gets sent straight to the US Treasury and you lose your chance to collect it. But why so many people haven't claimed their refunds? This is the question. A lot of people didn't file taxes in 2021 for various reasons. Some didn't think they made enough money to file. Others may have been dealing with health issues, job loss, or financial struggle during the pandemic. And let's be honest, some people just didn't realize that they were eligible for a refund. But here's the thing: even if you weren't required to file taxes, you might still be owed money. That's because some tax credits, like Earned Income Tax Credit (EITC), can give you a refund even if you didn't owe any taxes. And the stimulus checks, the government didn't always send them automatically. If you didn't get yours in 2021, the only way to claim it now is to file a tax return before April 15. How much money could be owed? According to the IRS, the average refund amount still waiting to be claimed is around $900, but depending on your situation, you could be owed much more. For example, if you didn't get the full $1,400 stimulus check, you could still claim that money. If you're eligible for Earned Income Tax Credit, you could get up to $6,700 depending on your income and family size. If you overpaid taxes or had too much withheld from your paycheck, you might have a refund waiting for you. So if you're someone who hasn't filed for 2021, now is the time to do it, because once April 15 passes, that money is gone forever. How to check if you haven't an unclaimed refund? If you're wondering whether you're owed a refund, here's what you can do. Number one, go to the IRS website www.irs.gov and look for "Where is my refund?" Number two, call the IRS directly at the number and ask about unclaimed refunds. Number three, check your tax records to see if you filed for 2021. If you didn't, you may still have time to do so. And remember, the IRS never charges a fee to claim a refund, so be aware of scams that try to trick you into paying to get your own money. Avoiding scams and fraud when filing for 2021. Scams, let's talk about something important: tax fraud and identity theft, because whenever there's money involved, you can bet that scammers are looking for ways to take advantage of people. Over the last few years, the IRS has seen a major increase in tax scams, especially targeting seniors and lower income taxpayers. One of the biggest scams right now, fake tax preparers promising to get you a bigger refund, but actually stealing your money. Here's how the scam works. A fake taxpayer preparer offers to file your taxes for free or promises you an unusually large refund. They ask you for personal information like your social security number, bank account details, and past tax records. Once they have your information, they file a fake tax return in your name and steal your refund. But by the time you realize what happened, the scammer is long gone, and the IRS is questioning you about the fraud. So how do you avoid getting scammed? Only use trusted tax professionals. Look for CPAs, enrolled agents, or tax preparers registered with the IRS. Never give out your social security number to someone you don't know. Check your tax return before submitting it. Make sure the information matches your records. File as early as possible. The sooner you file, the less chance a scammer has to steal your refund. What happens if you file a false claim? Now, let's say you're not trying to commit a fraud, but you accidentally claim money you're not entitled to. What happens? Okay, what happens? Well, the IRS doesn't take mistakes lightly. If they catch an error, they might reject your return completely. Request additional documents before processing your refund. Charge penalties and interest if they believe you claim money fraudulently. Audit your tax records, which could lead to bigger financial issues. So the big thing you can do is to double check your information before filing. If you're unsure about anything, consider working with a tax professional who can guide you through the process. Final thoughts: what you need to do before April 15. To wrap this up, here's what you need to do right now to make sure you're not leaving money on the table or making costly mistakes. Number one, check if you have unclaimed refund from 2021. If you do, file your taxes before April 15 to claim it. Number two, don't try to claim the $1,400 Smith check twice. If already got it, filing for it again could lead to penalties. Number three, watch out for tax scams. Only use trusted tax preparers. To be cautious of any promising huge refunds. Number four, make sure social security information is up to date with the new SSA verification rules starting March 31st. It's important to have your details correct. Millions of Americans still have money waiting for them, but if they don't act soon, it will be too late. So whether it's social security, Smith check, or tax refunds, staying informed is the best way to protect your finances. That wraps up today's important updates. We covered major social security changes that could impact how you verify your identity, and the April payment schedule, and why some people might face trouble claiming their $1,400 stimulus checks. If you're a social security recipient, make sure you're prepared for new identity verification rules starting March 31st, especially if you need to update your direct deposit information and if you haven't claimed your 2021 stimulus check yet. Don't wait until it's too late. The deadline is April 15, and after that the money goes back to the government. Also remember that trying to claim the stimulus money twice could get you fined, so check your records and make sure you're eligible before filing. Stay informed, take action if needed, and don't miss out the money you're owed. Make sure you're subscribed for more updates on social security stimulus payments and everything that affects your finances. Thanks for watching.